So in chapter 2, we talk about the senses, mind and intelligence. Senses run after various things. Eyes run after something beautiful. Ears run after something which is pleasant to hear. Tongue runs after something that is delicious to eat. And then mind is supposed to control these five senses. But sometimes it does not control or unable to control, which means it has become weak. And then intelligence is about the mind. Intelligence controls the mind and mind controls the senses in the normal scheme of things. But if intelligence is weak, then it cannot control the mind. If mind is weak, it cannot control the senses. So we have to strengthen the intelligence, make it strong by reading scriptures. And in chapter 3, we talked about karma yoga. Karma means action. So there are three types of karma. Karma which is good called sukarma, karma which is bad called vikarma, and karma which is not binding, means it's neither good nor bad and it won't cause you to get any reactions. Every karma has a or action has a reaction, but akarma doesn't have any reactions, which is essentially devotional service to the Lord. And in chapter 4 we talked about transcendental knowledge, jnana yoga. So 3 is karma yoga, 4 is jnana yoga. So it talks about how to understand Krishna, how to understand the world, how to understand the various modes of material nature, like that. And in chapter 5, we talk about karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So this is basically doing karma, but you're doing it for Krishna. And since you're doing it for Krishna, it becomes a karma. So that whole science of acting for Krishna is given there. And in chapter 6, Dhyana yoga, we talked about meditation on the holy name of the Lord, meditation on the Lord 24/7, which is better than doing other types of yogas. So there are different yogas, which Krishna described in 3, 4, and 5. And then in 6, he says, Yoginam api sarvesam madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajyato yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Means that is my opinion. Api sarvesam means of all the yogis, who is this Param Shresht, Sarva Shresht yogi? That is somebody who thinks of me in his heart. Madgaten antaratmana. Antaratmana. Atmana is soul. Within the soul, what you are thinking of. Right? Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. Always with Shraddha, they are doing my bhajan. So, such a person is considered to be the best yogi according to Lord himself. And in chapter 7, we covered the knowledge of the absolute. So we are going through a revision of various chapters that we covered. Knowledge of the absolute, their knowledge of Krishna is given. So who is absolute truth? Krishna, Param Satyam. Absolute means Param, truth means Satyam, Param Satyam, Satyam Param Dhimahi, like that. So who is the absolute? Krishna, and his knowledge is given. So various descriptions of him are given. Punyo gandham prativamcha. So when it rains, the smell that emanates from the ground is very pleasing to the nostrils. That is considered a good smell. So Krishna says, I am that fragrance. Prabhashmi shashi shuryayo. So I am the light of the sun and the moon, Krishna says. Right? In this way, rasoham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of water, Krishna says. So a beginning devotee who is unable to understand God is encouraged to understand God in these ways. Right? Drink a glass of water. Right? Especially water in the Puget Sound area is very pure because of good rains. So what is the taste of water? The taste of water is Krishna. He says, rasoham apsu kaunteya. So I am the taste, rasa, of water, he says. Then in chapter 8, Krishna talks about attaining the Supreme, how you can come to him. So what does he say? Antakala chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati matsabhavam, etc. So he says, Antakala, when you are about to die, Smaran muktva kalevaram, when you are about to leave your body, if you think of me, smaran means remember me at the time of death, then you will come to me. So, chapters 2 through 7 are art of living. Chapter 8 is art of dying, how to die. Because if you die properly, you will go back to Godhead. If you die improperly, you will stay in this, not stay, but you'll come back to this material world. And of course, there's so many challenges. Some people like those challenges, some people don't like those challenges. So it's up to you whether you want to come back or not. So, how to art of dying is chapter 8. Chapter 9 is most confidential knowledge. So 7 is confidential knowledge, because we are giving knowledge of Krishna is giving knowledge about himself. Chapter 8 is more confidential knowledge. Chapter 9 is most confidential knowledge. So if you look at my color coding, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are yoga ladder. So you are climbing the ladder step by step. And 7, 8, 9, and 10 are bhakti, devotion. Actually 11 and 12 also. And then 13 and 14 are jnana. 15 is again bhakti. 16 and 17 are also jnana. And 18 is conclusion. He says how you should not take birth again by completely renouncing the material world, means giving up. So it is the art of giving up. So Krishna teaches art of the science of the soul. So maybe I should kind of put in those values here. So this is science of soul. This is context. What is context? Look it up on the dictionary. And then you have, this is the yoga ladder. So yoga ladder. This is rung 1 of the yoga ladder. This is the rung 2 of the yoga ladder. Three of the yoga ladder. Four of the yoga ladder. And technically, all this is also yoga ladder. You're going to bhakti. So art of dying. So I want to call chapter 8 as art of dying, because Krishna is giving you the knowledge of how to attain him. Right? Art of dying. And then all these greens are bhakti. Then this is jnana, right? These two are jnana, these two are jnana, this is again bhakti. And then the final one is art of, what is the final one? Giving up. You have to give up everything. Even if you don't give up now, there is somebody will come and take you away. You have to give up at the time of death. So at some point we have to give up. So we need to come to the point of thinking, would you rather give it up voluntarily, or will somebody take it by force? Right? If you don't give it up voluntarily, it will take it by force. So who will take you by it away by force? Can anybody tell me?
Time, Yamadutas.
Yeah, Yamadutas, death. Time also, but Yamadutas are more tangible. Time is more subtle. But Yamadutas are tangible. They are individuals who will come and grab you out of your body and take you away. They have taken my father away, my grandfather away, my grandmother away, my father-in-law away. So it's only a matter of time. They will take us away also, right? So I'm just putting AL means art of living. So art of dying is as important as art of living. It's not like only art of living is good. Like Ravi Shankar will teach you some pranayama, breathing exercises, and he'll say that is good enough. No, death is very important because death is a gateway into the next life. Right? Death is a gateway into the next life. And only a few people will complete the journey. So, if you know what Six Sigma analysis is, this is Six Sigma analysis. If you don't know what Six Sigma is, look it up on the internet. So there are some people, this is called the normal curve. There are various kinds of curves, normal curve, binomial curve, exponential curve. Again, if you don't know, take a course on statistics in Coursera or Udemy for $10 and learn it. So atheistic people are not interested. Vast majority of the people are okay with practicing rituals and are not serious enough for solid devotion. And some people are interested in learning and applying the devotional principles. So this class is for the people on the right side of this curve. 99% of the population is here and I have no ability to reach them. So they will all very gently will go to hell because I have no ability to reach them. But for the people who have ability to reach, I will teach them. So maybe we should put a graph here which says, cannot reach this audience. Simple as that. What are we going to do? Nothing. Maybe if you have courage, you can do it, but I'm not going to reach to this population. So we can reach the population on this side, right? So people on this side, there is some hope. Again, not full hope, because some of my students who I'm teaching for like 5, 7, 10 years, they're still not taking it up seriously. So what can I do? I can only teach. So that is Bhagavad Gita, right? So you have art of context, science of soul, art of living, art of dying, some bhakti, and then finally art of giving up. So this is described in this gradual elevation. So this is called the yoga ladder. So you go from Ugra Karma, Vikarma to Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga to Jnana Yoga to Dhyana Yoga. Previously, I was like repeating myself many times. So I saw a leadership video on YouTube today. He said, be concise in your communication. Then it will enter people's heads. So I'm changing my communication style going forward. So I'll say it and it has to register. Because previously I was in the habit of repeating many times and doesn't look like it is registering in people's minds. So I'm going to be very, very concise going forward. So you have progressive yoga, the yoga ladder, then you have bhakti, and then finally jnana, perfection of renunciation. So as your devotion grows, your renunciation should also grow. Means you should be I and you should be less and less interested in the material world and more interested in leaving the material world. And then our attachment should go down, and our family responsibilities, like you should just delegate things. Okay, now you take care of this, you take care of this, you take care of this. I have other busy important things to do, like devotion. If somebody says, I want this $100 thing from Amazon, don't argue. Just give it to them and you focus on your devotion. Because by arguing, you'll waste time. So, any questions on that one? I wanted to give you this because now we are entering a new phase of Bhagavad Gita. We are now going to enter more intense stuff. Silence is agreement. Maunam angikaram. There is a saying in Sanskrit and Telugu. Maunam angikaram means if I am doing mauna, means I am silent, which means I accept everything. Okay, so now devotional service. This is the peak of that chapter 12, right? Which is devotional service, peak of bhakti. Actually, there is one more peak. After giving a little bit more jnana, Krishna will again give more bhakti. Arjuna uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Evam satata yukte te ye
Evam Sate
Ye
Yukte Ye
bhaktasvam parupasate
Bhakta
Bhaktasvam Pariyupasate
Parupasate
ye chapi aksharam avyaktam
Chapi
Chapi
Aksharam
Aksaram
Avyaktam
Yaktam
tesham ke yoga vittamaham.
Tesham Ke Yoga Vittamaha.
Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman? So there is it's a clause, right? Or clause here. Devotional service or impersonal Brahman. Right? So this is the important discriminator that we need to think through. Devotional service or discrimination. So this is a logical or clause. Like we have logical and logical or. Okay, Sheshdev, please read the purport.
Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself, not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation of the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that one of the different processes of realization of the absolute truth, bhakti yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly, but by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that bhakti yoga, or devotional service to him, is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark, and the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. In the seventh chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the supreme whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again, in the eighth chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the sixth chapter, the Lord clearly said that all of yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma Jyotir. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman, but he wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, of the Supreme Lord is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked by Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth.
Very nice. Good reading.
Thank you.
So instead of saying thank you, say Krishna's mercy. Can you say that?
Krishna's mercy.
Yeah. Whenever somebody praises, we are immediately want to take credit for that. But it's better to give credit to
Krishna.
Krishna. Yes. Right? Ultimately, he has given us a body, he is giving us food to eat. So why don't we want to give him the credit? Krishna's mercy. Like that. This graphics is not working properly, but anyways. So we have these two things. Look at that. So we only have two things, devotional service and meditation on the impersonal Brahman. So if you look, maybe around 90% of the people in the world are more inclined towards what? Impersonal Brahman, right? So Srila Prabhupada makes two important points here. He says, one cannot perfectly conceive the impersonal feature of the absolute truth, right? For example, if you had an option, if you're, suppose guests are coming to your home and you had two options, one to talk to Sheshdev and second to talk to Sheshdev's shirt. Which of the two is easy? Talking to Sheshdev directly or talking to his shirt?
Talking to the person.
Yeah. Obviously, talking to a person is very easy. You just come and pat on the back and say, "Hey, Shaishdev, how are you doing? It's been a long time. Are you good?" Like that. Or you talk to the shirt, which is not going to talk back to you. So this impersonal Brahman is like that. Although it belongs to the Lord, it does not have any distinct quality to it. Right?
So what exactly is impersonal Brahman then?
Huh?
What is impersonal Brahman? I understand devotional service, but what is impersonal Brahman?
Okay, Sheshdev, can you explain?
Yeah, according to Mayavadi's impersonal Brahman is the Brahma Jyotir. It's the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I think the impersonalists are under the conception that uh, there is nothing. There is just light, and people merge into the light, and that is the end of it. They don't agree that the Supreme Lord is a person, and since he's a person, and we are his servants, associating with the person is more uh, beneficial than not associating with anything. So uh, since they associate more with the Brahma Jyotir, it's like, okay, there is nothing. All this is mithya. All this is just an illusion, and so that that is a few characteristics of impersonal Brahman.
Does that help, Mataji?
Makes sense, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I know you think it makes sense, but I don't think you fully understood it because this is not an easy concept.
I will scratch my head and I will ask my father-in-law for help.
Why, you didn't understand what Sheshdev said?
Well, I agree with you. It's a deeper concept, so it needs to be understood and debated and understood deeply so that it can make sense, and I can, I have to completely internalize it so I can agree with it or understand it deeply so I can make other people understand, which
So
connects to my kids and other parts of the family.
what points did you not understand in what Sheshdev said?
What I'm understanding, what Sheshdev said is that it's part of the it's that the impersonal Brahman is that part of the society or the community which prays to God in the is a form of light, is a form of jyoti. There is light at the end of the tunnel, that form of God, but not God in the form of, not Lord Krishna in the form of Lord. And that's the difference. That's what I understood. um how do I explain it to 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 common people? Because for me, God is there, yes, and God has an aura. God also has his own light and his own um what is that called as? Help me with some words over there. His own brightness, his own light. You don't see God just in a dull form. There's always, when you see in pictures and all the uh, all God pictures in Bhagavad Gita, also there's a halo of light around him. For me, that is also light of God. And so I'm kind of confused over there.
Okay, so Sheshdev, can you explain?
Okay.
Can you ask the last part of the question, Mataji? I didn't follow the last one. Sorry.
So, Shishte, when you said, like, God is the people, the impersonal Brahman is the people who think God is God is Jyoti.
Right.
What is the difference between the Jyoti of they are praying to and the
Right.
light and the Jyoti that is coming from the God, that is the halo behind the God? When you see God pictures, is there a difference behind it, or?
Yeah, so that is exactly the point. So when they pray to the halo, as you rightly pointed, it is the halo of the god. So you have that understanding that the halo belongs to someone, or that halo is coming from somebody, which we know as Krishna. But they stop at the point of halo, saying that there is no cause for the halo. Halo is the ultimate cause. So, and merging into the supreme is their ultimate destination. They don't agree to the fact that the halo also has an origin, which we know as Krishna. So that is
So
the most
basically,
important link which is missing.
got it. So basically, is basically there is a being and then there is a shadow. When you are praying the shadow, you think that is it.
Yeah,
Is okay. Does it am I making sense? Is it the same thing that I understood?
it is. It is. It's just that stopping at the halo or the Brahma Jyotir uh, is an incomplete understanding. If you can relate to the fact that the effulgence is from the supreme being, which is Krishna, then that is like a complete understanding. So that is, so we don't agree to the fact that okay, there is a Brahma Jyotir, and there is nobody behind, or nobody creating that Brahma Jyotir, or nobody has that impetus for that Brahma Jyotir. Our understanding is that the Brahma Jyotir comes from Krishna, and uh, which is the ultimate understanding. Yeah, Prabhuji, I don't know
So
if
the
I'm explaining that right.
No, that is correct. You explained it according to your level of understanding. So, Mataji, what is the follow-on question based on his explanation?
the fact that there is a jyoti is a solid fact that there is a jyoti. Uh, how people perceive that is debatable. Am I is the question over here?
Uh, so, you are thinking in terms of your ability to measure all this, right? So,
No, Prabhu, I'm just trying to understand. Uh, is in common terms, if we are, if I am, like God is source of light. We say, Surya Bhagwan is there, and Krishna makes everything, made moon, made sun, made the light, and the heavens and all the planets. And then over here we're talking about impersonal Brahman is people who pray the light and pray the jyoti. So I think so uh just the word light being utilized in so many different concepts is kind of messing around with my mind and my understanding, which I will do some studies and read about.
yeah. So, this one, again, partially, you cannot describe the spiritual world on a PowerPoint or through a Zoom call, right? This has to be realized in the heart. But we are trying to somehow take the n dimensional thing and put it onto two dimensions. So you see this illuminated by Brahmajyoti, effulgence of the Lord, the entire universe, material world and spiritual world, as shown in this chart, is illuminated by the Lord's light. Okay, the spiritual world,
Got it.
intermediate spiritual world, material world, your heaven is here. Everything is
Yeah,
illuminated by the Lord. Okay.
makes
The
sense.
question is, people don't want to acknowledge Lord as a person. So they may come to your home and take your, the food that you cooked, but they will not acknowledge you as Disha.
Hmm.
They will think that you are some kind of energy. That energy is
Got it.
giving the food, not Disha as a person.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's deeper. Okay.
That is an insult to the God. If I come home, you cook
Okay.
nicely for me, I talk to your husband, I eat the prasadam that you cook, but then I don't even ask how is Mataji doing.
Agree. Makes sense.
Brahman is
Okay.
the effulgence. Then you have his expansions. Then you have eternally separated living entities. That is you and me, jivas.
Okay. Got it.
Now you
Thank you.
think about
Thank you, Prabhu.
this. You are educated and you run a business and you are finding it so difficult to understand. How will an average person understand this knowledge? That's the challenge we run into, right?
Yes.
How will an ordinary person understand? They won't. That is why I
No.
drew that graph. Vast majority will die without knowing this knowledge,
Mm.
which is probably 99% will not know this knowledge, right? Maybe this line is like this. And if having known this knowledge, if you don't apply it, that is even a bigger crime.
Then too, you are like that frog in the pond, na, Prabhu. We used to discuss that.
Right, yeah. Kupastaka manduka. Manduka means frog. Kupastaka means a well. So frog in the well. So we have to get out of that. We have to not be frogs in the well. And you see, the spiritual planets are floating in the Brahmajyoti, and the material planets are also floating in there. But material planets are where? We are in the stalk of this lotus flower. We cannot even see this thing going on around. We are just trapped within one bubble, airtight bubble, where light cannot also not enter. That's why Krishna gave a sun, Surya, to give us light within this bubble. So that's what it is. Okay. So this important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction. The Lord will now clarify. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Bhagwan Vacha
Vacha
Mayi Aveshya Mano Yeya Mam
Mayi Aveshya
Maya
Mano Ye Mamam
Nitya Yukta Upasate
Nitya Yukta
Nitya Yukta
Upasate
Shraddhaya Pariyopetas
Shraddhaya Daya
Daya
Petas
Te Me Yukta Tamamataha.
Teme Yukta Tamamataha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be the most perfect. Means you don't have to do anything. Fix mind. Fix the mind in personal form. That's it. You don't have to do anything very grand. You just fix your mind in the personal form. So that is what we are trying to do. Put a deity of Krishna, chant his names, offer to him 3 times a day, bhoga, and food from the vegetarian kingdom only. No onion, no garlic, that's about it. There are not too many rules. And then you eat that as prashadam. So that when you offer 3 times a day, you cannot forget Krishna, right? Morning you offer, breakfast, lunch you offer, dinner you offer. Actually, this corona is a blessing for us because we can offer 3 times. Otherwise, during the day, we are going to office. So this is a very good thing. Normally, everybody is saying corona is bad, but for me personally, it is very, very good, right? We are able to become more Krishna conscious during a virus where we are under home lockdown. We can do so many things that we cannot normally do. So Krishna is saying, if you fix your mind on him, you are the most perfect. That's it. So what's the problem? Let's fix our mind. Job done. Okay, Disha, read the purport.
Yes, Prabhuji. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered the most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi.
Yeah. So samadhi means this. You don't have to do anything grander than that. Right? So let's write down all the things that Prabhupada mentioned. He mentioned two things, right? So maybe we can put it in a tabular format. So we should be constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants. Sometimes he hears, just like you are hearing me now, or read books, which you probably don't do. Sometimes cooks prasadam, goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. Sometimes washes the temple or the temple dishes or the home dishes mainly for Krishna. Right? Actually, if you are cooking for Krishna, then there is no question of me. You cook for Krishna and then you eat the prasadam. That's it. So it's not like I'm cooking for myself. It's always like I'm cooking for Krishna. So that will be a good consciousness to have. Right? So instead of thinking, oh, this is for me, you say this is for Krishna. Or every day you should be in relationship to Krishna. For example, the last 5 days of Kartik, so we are in the second day of last 5 days, is called Bhishma Panchaka. So whatever you were doing for the first 25 days, you increase that. So first 25 days you may not have eaten sweets. And last 5 days you give up eating even certain things. Like my wife is not eating anything other than fruits and roots. So she's eating taro root and she's eating fruits. So you increase whatever you do for Krishna. So so when you are eating less, then you are reminded of Krishna. Oh, why am I eating less? Oh, because this is the last 5 days of Kartik, which means, oh, I'm doing it for Krishna. So 24/7 you are surrounded by Krishna, 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 like that. Ye tva aksharam anirdeshyam
Etva aksharam anirdeshyam
avyaktam paryupasate
avyaktam
Avyaktam
pariyupasate
pariyupasate
sarvatra gam achintyam cha
sarvatragam
sarvatram
achintyam cha
achintyam cha
kutastam achalam dhruvam
kuchalam
uttastam
tastalam
achanam duram
achalam dhruvam
sanniyamendriya gramam
sanniyamyendriya gramam
Sarvatra Samabuddhayah.
Sarvatra Samabuddhayaka.
Te Prapnuvanti Mamevam.
Te
Te
Papnuvanti
prabnuvanti
Mamyeva.
Sarvabhuta Hite Rataha.
Sarvabhuddhahiretaha.
But those who worship the unmanifested, remember we are talking about column 1, that which lies beyond the perception of senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable. Right? So this is belongs to column 1. By what do they do? Controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, sama sarveshu bhuteshu. Such persons engage in welfare of all, at last achieve me. So this is more the jnana marga or welfare activities. You are building hospitals. They also fast, right? Controlling the various senses. Matter of fact, people in column 1 fast more than us. You should see some of them. Entire Kartik, they won't shave. So they'll have a big dadi during Kartik, right? And they're equally disposed to everyone. They're also very good people. Such persons at last achieve me. That's the problem. They take longer because they don't directly worship Krishna. They worship Krishna's Brahma Jyotir. So at last, whereas these people worship and they have a quicker result. So if you are looking for return on investment, this is better. This is higher ROI. This is delayed ROI.
Prabhu, it's perfect if we have any, financial people on the call.
So everybody should be financial, right? We are all developing something for finance. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Okay, now Gopal, read this.
Sure, Prabhuji. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead, Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal. Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render the service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult.
Yeah. So a lot of good points here. This on the left hand side, because he achieves at last, which means after many, many births, right? Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. So it's a difficult path. It's a long winded path. In order to perceive super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease these activities. Does anybody know who did this? He stopped all his activities to achieve the Lord.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj, excellent. So Sheshdev said and Nagaprabhu also said.
No, Prabhu, not me.
Who
Maybe
said
Gopal
that?
Prabhu.
Sheshdev and
Me, Prabhu, Gopal.
Gopal. Okay, good. So both of you have remembered what I told you earlier. Dhruva Maharaj does penances to achieve Vishnu. He technically doesn't follow the Bhakti Marg. He follows the Ashtanga Yoga Marg. Ashtanga Yoga means you should stop progressively, right? So what do you stop? You stop eating, then you stop drinking, then you stop breathing. That is called the Ashtanga Yoga Marg. But we cannot do that. At least I cannot do that. So for us, column B is easier. For the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. So everybody with me so far? Unless you are Superman, Batman, Aquaman, you have to chant Hare Krishna. Even Batman has to chant because he can also not do this stopping of breathing, hearing, tasting. He's always working somewhere. Zip, zap, zoom. He's going from building to building. So for practically other than a very advanced yogi, column B is the better and faster way. Klesho adhikatarastesham
Klesho adhikatarastesham
avyaktasakta chetasam
avyaktasakta chetasam
avyakta hi gathir dukkham
avyakta hi gatir dukham
dehavadbhir avapyate.
devadaptir avapyate.
For those whose minds are attached to unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. So this also goes into our column A. Right? So this is how I take notes. I don't know how you take notes, but I read and I write it down so that at the right time I can use it again. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Embodied. What is embodied means? Provide a spirit with a physical form. Even Bing knows this. Provide a spirit with a physical form, right? So there is a soul. The soul is now entered the body of Gopal. The body wasn't there 40 years ago. 40 years later, the body won't be there. But this spirit is there in that body. That is what called embody. Okay, who else is there? Nag Prabhu, please read this.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional services to the Lord are called Bhakti Yogis.
Hold on.
Now,
Right? You agree with me? Okay, continue.
now here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately brings one to the same goal, is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of God, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind,
Yeah, pause
which
there.
can thus be applied.
No, not this one. This is easier to understand. And there is also one more point. Bhakti Yogi accepts deity of Krishna because there is bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. You see that? Because we have a body, when we see Krishna's body, we get attracted to him.
Um, of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna of the supreme possession of not possession of the supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, it is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, very good. So, Saguna. Guna means form or characteristic. Guna is actually characteristic. Saguna means with characteristics. Huh? So that Nirguna means without material characteristics. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have a form. Nirguna is basically not possessing attributes.
Prabhu, if we just want to remember, we can say Muslims as their way of worshipping is nirguna, right? So they don't
Correct,
have
correct.
any
Yeah,
deity
they
or
are
anything. So we
Nirgunas.
can call them
If you
nirgunas.
argue with them, they'll cut your head off. But that's what they will say. God doesn't have a form. That is because they are also in the class of Mayavadis. So they fall into column 1. But a lot of Hindus also fall into column 1 because what they say is they do something called Panchopasana, right? They will only worship these 5. Many Hindus, I'll tell you what they worship. Panchopasana. It's not showing up here, but typically it will be like they'll have a deity of Lakshmi, Saraswati, Ganapati, and 2 other people, and they'll say that this is you can worship any one of these 5 deities and you'll go back to the same destination. You'll get liberated. So that is like an incorrect understanding. What they are doing is they are twisting scriptures. So Nirguna, some people don't believe in form of God, which is all of Muslims, some Christians, um, Buddhists also. They don't believe in form of a God. Actually, they don't believe in God. They say nirvana means after we die, we become formless ourselves, right? So that's why you have to understand this whole spectrum of different religious beliefs. Okay, continue.
A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without a difficulty. But any old box or an imitations which may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the service of the devotees just to make it convenient to the man in conditioned life.
Yeah. So one more thing we got here point. The authorized representation of God is called Archa Vigraha. Vigraha means form or Vigraham, they say, right? Archa means you are doing Archana to this form. You are doing worship. So that is called Archa Vigraha. On this side, they'll just keep on doing penances because they want to purify their soul on the left side. But there's no concept of worshipping anybody. That's the problem. Sometimes these people worship themselves, right? It is called Aham Graho Pasana. Means they do self worship. Upasana means worship. Aham means me. Graho means worshipping to myself. Self worship. Okay. So this Archa Vigraha, what does it do? The God will accept service through that form. Otherwise, who are you going to worship? Some formlessness. How can you worship formlessness, right? If there's no form, who are you going to worship? So God will accept service to that form. And how do you know that God's form is like this? Where is the reference? You all know this.
I'm trying to recollect the names here.
Okay, you don't have to tell the particular name, but in generally, where will you find such information? In the scriptures, right? Shastra, that's it. That's the purpose
Yeah,
of Shastra.
the
You don't remember the name, that's fine. There are books which specifically give that information actually.
yeah, what I was trying to recollect was the posture, how the Krishna is standing, the S shape Krishna. That name I was trying to recollect.
Yeah, that is there in the Brahma Samhita. Shyamam Tribhanga Lalita Niyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Tribhanga means he is bent in three places, right?
Yeah, the S shape
There is a
Tribhanga.
specific scripture for how to design and build a temple and how the Lord should look like that. But Brahma Samhita gives a lot of information there, right? Barhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam. So his body is like that of a rain cloud when there is thunder going on in the back. So it's a bright rain cloud color. Venum kvanantam aravinda talayataksham. So he has a flute, Venum, in his hand. Right? With this information, you make your deity. Or you look at an existing temple and make from there. See, just like in programming, you can write a linked list from scratch or go to GitHub and download somebody else's linked list and make a few changes. Right?
Right.
If you write from scratch, your boss will yell at you because why are you wasting time? Somebody already did it, right? You are not the first person to walk on the planet. So same thing, you go to an existing temple and learn how it is done. And then you refer to the scriptures, Shilpa Shastra. Shilpa Shastra has all the information about how sculpture should be made. So yeah, there's a lot of good information everywhere. So you just follow the templates. Even for your information, Lord Brahma uses templates. What template did Lord Brahma use to create us?
The Bhagavan's, the Krishna's template. In his
Yes.
form only he made
And
use.
what template did he use to create the material world?
The the spiritual world. It's a reflection of the
Spiritual
spiritual
world.
world.
Yeah, there you go. Excellent answers. Okay, continue, please.
Okay. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way of spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand and understand the non perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the supreme personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking the troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end.
Yeah, pause
But
there
the
for a minute.
person,
Pause there for a minute. We got some more points. So these people are taking. So Disha Mataji, you said that you wanted to have more information, right? This is the more information. It is not just about light or something like that. Yes, it is about light, but it's more deep than that. The Mayavadis or people who worship the Brahmajyoti, they're wasting time because they're taking a difficult path. You have to read the Upanishads, you have to learn the language, you have to understand the non-perceptual feelings, right? Whereas what does a devotee do? Simply by offering, no, under the guidance of spiritual master, a guru, offering regulative obeisances by paying Sashtanga Namaskar, hearing the glories of the Lord like you are hearing. Because what is Bhagavad Gita? It's all about glorifying the Lord. And simply eating remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord means prasadam. You should not eat what you have not offered to God. Even if it is costing $100, throw it away. But if you offered it to God, even something as simple as palak sabji, you should eat it. That's it. It's not the cost, it is what was connected to the Lord. So that way you become Krishna conscious, means you think day and night about Krishna. And then very easy to go back to Godhead at end of lifetime. Whereas this process on the left is very, very difficult. Did you catch that, Disha? Sorry, what was that?
Yes, Prabhu, I got it.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Because you cannot just worship some light. What are you going to do? How are you going to worship light? Then somebody will put a LED light and say, worship this also now. So, worshipping the unmanifest, all these qualities, right? Unmanifest representation of the Supreme. So you should try to imagine by reading the Vedas how God looks like. Whereas some Vedas give the description of the God and they say directly worship him. So instead of taking the direct path, you're taking the indirect path. So to go from Redmond to Sammamish Temple by using East Lake Sammamish Parkway, you are going to Seattle, from there going to Bothell, from there going somewhere else, and then finally coming to Sammamish. Not necessary. Continue.
but the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the surrender process is called bhakti. But instead of takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman and spend his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result.
Yeah, so let's finish our table here. So this person will always ask this question: what is Brahman? What is not Brahman? Like what is Brahmajyoti? What is not Brahmajyoti? Right? And there is uncertainty. Who wants uncertainty? Nobody wants
Nobody
uncertainty.
wants.
Right? So we should go with the easy path. Why go take the hard path? Right? Okay, continue.
A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accom- accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotees, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of jnana yoga, may come to the point of bhakti yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also become a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifests both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is
Yeah,
partially
pause there.
independent.
Pause there for a minute. So we have some more good points here. Accomplish the realization of eternal and knowledgeable aspects, but not the blissful aspects. So anybody know the Sanskrit terms for these?
Sachidananda.
Yeah, correct. Explain to your class what do you mean by that?
Eternal uh, knowledge, bliss, and Sat, Chit, Put, potency. And Ananda is happiness, bliss.
Yeah, that's it. So Disha, can you repeat what he said?
Explain the meaning of Sat Anand, and Sat is eternal, Chit is knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, Anand is portion. Blissful portion is not realized.
Yeah. And on the bhakti side, what is realized?
And the Ananda is realized.
Ananda is also real.
Ananda is realized.
Ananda is also realized here.
Right. So all three are realized. Here you have 2 out of 3. Here, 3
All
out of
three.
3. So you get 100% marks here. Right? So we should be convinced that this path of impersonalism, and if somebody is impersonal, we should just take pity on them and try to teach them, give them prasadam so that they can also get. So why is prasadam so powerful?
Prasadam is also the form of Krishna.
Yeah. So when Krishna touches our bhoga that we offer to him with his lips, it also becomes transcendental. It also attains the same quality as him in transforming us. So, by the grace of a devotee, transcendentalist, highly learned, may come to the point of bhakti yoga or devotional service. So, it is possible actually. It is possible for them to come from one point to the other point.
And even if they come,
It will
it'll
be
still be
difficult. Yeah.
difficult for them.
That is the difficulty, right? For example, if you learned English all your life and suddenly at the age of 45 you are introduced to German, is it easy?
No.
No. It's a challenge. So better not even go down that rat hole. If you go down that path, you may be stuck. Okay, continue.
Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual, blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails en- which entails full engagements in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is a danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of certaining attention on the unmanifested, the unconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, are already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna.
Yeah. So, what is the biggest danger in column 1?
Um, so even it's very difficult. Even if we go to that path, we will not get the full result of it. The Sachit Ananda we will not get. We'll just get Sach and Chit, and eventually we will come to the Bhakti Yoga. If you perfect the Jnana Yoga, you will again come to Bhakti Yoga. Even if you come to Bhakti Yoga, it's very hard to unlearn what you learned in Jnana Yoga. So you'll still be struggling here.
So, that is a problem. But what is the biggest risk?
The uncertainty. You may,
Yeah,
you
the answer.
may come to the
And
Bhakti or you
turning
may
to
not come.
atheism. This is the one word I'm looking for.
Oh, atheism.
Yeah. So, you may totally go away from God. So, not only it is problematic, but it's highly risky. See, a problem means your car oil is finished. Your car will stop on the road. Risk means now the car is stopped on the road and a truck may come and hit you and you may get into big injury. So a problem can turn into something very dangerous. So that is the thing. Yeah. So this is the problem, that you may not get bliss. But the risk is that not only you will not get bliss, but you may become an atheist. Nastic means no belief in God. So very, very important to stick to the right side. Right? Most people don't have patience to listen so much. So if you directly tell them don't do atheism or don't do this, they will not listen. But yeah, since we went step by step across 4 or 5 verses, we were able to put together this slide, which I'm going to send it to you, which gives you the required information basically. Okay, any questions? Okay, Gopal, what is the summaries of today's class?
It's about devotional service, Prabhu, the difference between impersonal and personal form, and attaining through supreme through devotional service. The route which impersonalist will be the long route and they will eventually come, but that is not recommended way.
Okay. So, but can you tell me why people take the long route?
Because of lack of knowledge and
So what is our responsibility then?
To provide knowledge and give
Yeah.
prasadam and
Yeah, that is it. I mean,
service.
you give prasadam first, because directly if you give knowledge, they will yell at you or they will laugh at you. So first, like, what do? First you tame the animal, and then you put the animal in your bedroom. If you put a wild animal in your bedroom first night, next morning you may not be alive. The animal will jump and bite you or whatever. So first you tame the soul by giving prasadam, and then once they are a little willing to hear, then you give them the knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, Disha, you want to add anything to what he said?
Mm. The other is people of simply following the real, they follow the shadow, for perception, they follow, and today's class we also learned about how we can the right way of being a devotee, or what should be done and how it should be done. Like when you constantly engage in Krishna consciousness, you listen and you chant and you read books, you cook prasadam, and that's how you become a devotee.
Okay, good. Okay, so that was the class. Now we will